There's a video going around on the internet of Afghanistan's first all-women orchestra. Yes. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to find Afghan music. Because that video, you can see all the violinists in there, and they're doing standard technique that we use as beginning violinists, and so they're learning how to do this, and because a lot of times when you're first learning the violin and you're going, oh, this is boring. Nobody really plays a violin like this. They play like this. Well, then they actually get to see in the video that they're using this and they're using this, and then they're holding their violins properly. And all those role models that are playing traditional music from their culture. And so, because I always encourage, I was telling you this, that I always encourage my students to learn something from other cultures.
Absolutely.
And especially their own. So that, because, my selfish thought is, okay, so the family has to sit there and listen to the kid practice this for a very long time. And so it might as well be something that the family really enjoys.
Very good idea, actually. It's an excellent idea.
If you've got to listen to 100 hours of this song, then it should be something you like.
Exactly. And it's something they can relate to.
Exactly. Yeah. And something that you play and then grandpa goes, oh, I love that song. Yes. I had a little boy from Peru. And his grandfather came to visit, and he was struggling through the song, and grandfather's all like, keep playing. I think I recognize it. And so, And I had him playing El Condor Pasa, which I learned later is it's the second national anthem of Peru.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I didn't know that. I just knew it's the song that you think of when you think of Peru, that's the song. And I looked it up on Wikipedia, and they were like, oh yeah, it's the second national anthem as of 2006 or something like that. Yeah, I didn't know countries could, vote in a second national anthem. The things you learn. But they really love that song. So there you are. Something that captures the passion. Last year I had my school kids learn the Tongan national anthem.
What
the Tongan national anthem of Tonga.
Tonga.
Because I have a lot of students in my school from Tonga. And I've been trying to recruit my Tongan kids to join the violin class. Because Tonga doesn't really, it's a culture that their music is a lot of percussion-based music, a lot of vocal-based music. Violin isn't really one of the instruments that's in their national art forms. And that's what I teach. I don't teach voice or piano, but I teach violin. So this is the tool I have. And so I said, why don't we learn this song? And at that time, I only had one Tongan kid in my class, but everybody loved her and everybody would do anything for her. And so I was just like, this is awesome. And so I said, let's learn the King of the Tongan Islands. And she said, I took it home and played it for my daddy. And he says, we have to learn all of the parts. And I'm like, these are beginners. And I'm like, okay. And before I could say a single word, one of the other kids is like, well, if Ofa's daddy says it, we're going to learn all the parts.
Wow.
They did my work for me. I didn't have to fight. Nobody was kicking and screaming. It was done.
This kind of the natural encouragement. That's
they just voted themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was beautiful because we got invited to perform in a local park for an arts festival. We had a full sound team and a stage. We were all on microphones, and I sang the words in Tongan. Because it's the national anthem, so there's a gazillion recordings on YouTube, so you can find it. There's sheet music, so I was able to teach my objectives of reading sheet music and learning the violin and keep it connected. And there were 8 kids that were Mexican and 1 Tongan girl, but we played it, and they all wanted to offer that, and I did that and El Condor Pasa in Quechua, which is one of the native languages of Peru. It's actually an Indian language. It's from the Aztecs. Oh. It's the Incas because it's an Inca language.
Okay,
and so. So I did those 2, and I was amplified, and people all over the park could hear this song. And I had all the Tongan kids run up afterwards and say, that was really meaningful. We're so glad. These are Tongan kids who are just in the park playing, you know, and they were like, oh, that's our national song.
And they can so relate to it much, and it's so important, I think.
Yeah. And so I always try to choose something that's central to, you know, like the first thing, because as a teacher, I've got so many students and so many things on my plate as an artist that I don't have time to do a ton of research into every single culture and every single thing. I pick the most iconic thing.
Right.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing is in theater, you don't go for the obscure, you go for the iconic stuff. And so anytime somebody falls asleep on stage, that's what you do. That's every single time somebody falls asleep, right? It's got to be the Brahms lullaby. Because that has the most power, and people don't have to think. They just know that that's what that is. And even if they weren't paying attention, they're like, oh, somebody fell asleep. Yeah. So, yeah. That's the way music works. As far as, well, because my background is I do a lot of theater and I do a lot of jazz. And I do, in my teaching, I do a lot of things where I'm trying to compete with video games and all those things out in the world.
Yes.
And there are many teachers that go for the video game themes. And if a student brings me a video game theme in the notation and says, I want to learn this, then I will absolutely do that. But one of the things I love to do is, like, for example, I had a Chinese student, and I was trying to get him to learn a traditional piece, and I said, it goes like this, and I played it, and his father cried. And he said, oh, that is indeed a famous song. And the son's like, no, I don't want to learn it. Oh, well, I tried. But most of the time, especially with the younger kids, they're like, I want to learn that song. If it makes my father cry, I want to learn that song. You know, because kids love their parents. They want to do things that make their parents happy.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So it's about power. And I try to teach that emotional power with my with Ed Condor Pasa with my kids last year. We played for Hispanic Heritage Day, and the reason I picked that was because all the other countries have been taken. You had to pick a country, and by the time we got to the list, we were the 21st. So Mexico had been taken, Cuba had been taken, like all the other obvious countries have been taken. I'm like, wait, Peru's not on that list. Okay, we'll do Peru, because I already know El Condor Pasta. And I already have the pan flute and ready to go. Well, the pan flute didn't pan out. I play flute, but my flute skills don't transfer over very well to the pan flute. So I didn't do pan flute on that. But I did end up with 2 violins, viola, playing with me, and so I pulled out a cello and completed the string quartet, and so we were able to do it, and people came up afterwards, not just to me but the kids, and they were like, I was crying. That was such a meaningful, important song to me, you know, and I want the kids to have that, you know, like they're just playing and they're like, really? I made you cry? I'm just playing as you know, because people don't normally give kids that kind of credit, you know, and kids don't normally have that kind of power, you know, and to realize, and like, yes.